Welcome to Startups with Payu, and today we have Barkha, who runs or works with her husband to run the JSM group. They run Shiro's, where we sit. Thank you for having us here and hosting us here. And honestly, sharing your journey. We were just discussing yesterday to just over coffee right now. What has this personal journey been like from Lagos to coming to India, figuring something out in Bombay to then eventually Bangalore? Walk us through that.
Yeah, thanks, Vishesh. Nice to meet you. So going back many years ago, just one, fine day, my husband says he wants to move to India. So we looked at Bombay first. We explored, many options there. His passion was restaurants and bars because that was his dream to own a restaurant. So when we moved to Bombay, started off there. Sadly, the property fell through, and then it was either we look at Bangalore or we look at Delhi in India, but we wanted to be in India. So at that point, we looked at Bangalore. Bangalore was booming at that time.
Yeah.
So we kind of stayed on here, and our first venture in F&B was F-Bar. We got Michelle Adams' brand, F-Bar, which we ran many years back. Very successful. We had, I think maybe we were a little too ahead in terms of our cuisine there. We had a lot of Asian sushi, dim sum, and I don't think at that point Bangalore was ready, but I think it was kind of like people were warming up at that point with that cuisine, back in 2001, 2002. Anyway, very successful. That was, that did really well. We then exited, sold out. And then a couple of years later, we brought in the Hard Rock brand. My husband brought in the Hard Rock brand. It was a tough one to get because there's so many giants in India that wanted to bring this brand. Yeah, but anyways, very successful. Brought in the brand, and part of the same company, JSM, we have Shiro, which was a home brand, completely Sanjay's baby. We had a business partner back then. Part of JSM Group. Shiro was completely home driven. The menu, the interiors were done by Sandeep Khosla, and my husband was closely involved. Again, he was very passionate about this space, and that's how Shiro grew. The statues.
Yeah, we were just discussing and how this could have been put together with the immense ceilings and the height of this. But just to start from where you started, 1997, when you arrive in India, what does it look like? What does Bombay look like? What does life look like at that time?
When I came to India, I was completely sheltered. I was living in a little bubble when I moved here. So literally, I was thrown in the deep end when I moved to India. Great learning. Back then, I was around, and then we kind of looked at Kobe Sizzlers, and I was this ideal housewife looking to do something in India, and that's how I kind of started my first journey working. And I didn't know anything back then. It was my husband helping me, and then through being this big part of the journey, I kind of learned step by step. So I didn't really have an education really in hotel management. I didn't really have a formal education. It was just being, moving here and saying, what am I going to do in Bangalore? It's a completely new city. And that's how I started. And I think year on year, I just was learning. And that's been my journey. And today, I would really say I've learned so much just by, doing a live learning.
Yeah, life's with an MBA, right? Like that's what you say. You were saying how your kids talk about not having formal education versus you probably having a PhD right now and running a restaurant business. And things that you would want to share, say, from your experience about how has it been over the last couple of decades running restaurant businesses, getting them to India, almost 3 decades now.
Yeah. So honestly, this space is a very hard space, but very rewarding. But it's not easy because you're working 24/7. You're looking at new things to be doing all the time. You're recreating menus all the time. And it's not easy to satisfy people, right? When it comes to food, you're evolving all the time. So it's a non-stop journey of learning as well. I mean, even coming to interiors, it's not like you set up, say, 15, 18 years back and you're done, and this journey could take you like setting up an office, right? You set up an office and you're good for 30, 40, 50 years. You're just doing a little bit of renovation. But in a restaurant, you're constantly fixing things.
What we talk about in tech as product market fit, you're trying to see if dim sums work in India in 2001 or not. So
you're constantly, I mean, even I'm just looking at my bar now and I'm thinking you're constantly evolving with cocktails. It's not like a cocktail which you made 20 years back you can still have on your menu, or maybe your menu you had 20 years back. You're constantly refixing, seeing what people like, even cocktails, other than interiors and your food and your cocktails, you're looking at your crockery, cutlery. You have to be in sync with today.
And you have to keep probably doing this. How much of a cycle do you think? Is it every 3 years that you would think, or is it every few months, or is it 5 years?
I think probably we look at it maybe every year. I mean, we have to reassess every year. You're redoing your menus. So it's ongoing constantly. Like I was telling her earlier, a lot of my friends will say, oh my God, Monday is a public holiday. It's, we're chilling. What's going on? Honestly, in this space, we don't even know.
There is no holiday,
There's no holiday. We work 24 hours through the year. We're working.
In fact, much more on holidays.
Much more on holidays. So we don't even come to know. I don't even come to know when it's a public holiday, because we're working through the day, through the night. You could have somebody calling you at like 10:30, 11 in the night saying, I need to get in. Or can you book me a table? So it's constant.
So, I mean, in fact, great points mentioned there. It's not an easy business to run.
It's not an easy business.
It's like a 24/7 business. Yeah. And additionally, from what we hear and what we were discussing just before we started, that the rent in India is so high for restaurants that the rent to revenue ratio, or it's about 20% of your revenue, or 15-20% of your revenue goes into paying rent. Why do you think that is the case, and how have you navigated that challenge? Because the spaces that you have are fairly premium.
So I think we've also learned through our mistakes. I think initially when you get into this space, you think, taking X amount of rent you can cover, because you look at it as it looks like a very glamorous business. And you think when you open doors, people are going to flood your place. But there's a lot of work behind it. And I think, I think you need to be very strong. If anyone's looking at starting this business, you need to negotiate really, really hard before closing your deal. Because I think, a lot of people, when you're looking at high rentals, it becomes very hard then to pay your monthly outgoing. So I think, when you're looking at a startup, definitely
keep your operational costs minimum, or rather your fixed costs in this case.
Keep your costs down. That is a big one. Rentals then come back and bite you.
Fantastic point. In fact, so you're looking at a 24/7 business, people calling you all the time. You're looking at every year renovating the menu, or even the crockery, or even what the new vibe is, and then the rents are very high. Fantastic brand that you built over the years, and then COVID hits 5 years ago. What was that like?
Oh my God, COVID was scary because our businesses crashed completely. I didn't realize how long it was going to go on for. Every day was a new day. Then we kind of started doing deliveries. We were not very strong with deliveries. We started pushing our deliveries. Again, deliveries didn't really meet our salaries. We couldn't make people redundant because it was unfair. These are people that have stood by us day and night. We had to obviously, support them. So deliveries added to a very, very small portion. or of our revenues, but that's what we did for a few months.
Also a function of the kind of places that you ran, maybe fine dine places that are not really seen for delivery. Was that also?
Yeah, we were not. I mean, delivery was not really our strength,
Yes,
right? But at that point, like all the other restaurants, we had no option but to start deliveries. But anyways, we sailed through COVID. We negotiated with our rentals, landlords that supported us. We carried on business in those areas, and landlords that didn't support us and carried on billing, we exited from those spaces. So I think COVID was also a lot of correction for us in terms of staffing. A lot of our teams that left jobs and looked for jobs elsewhere or moved to other verticals or other businesses, we let them go.
Mm-hmm.
But people that stayed on, we started multitasking, which helped us correct ourselves. I mean, initially, many years back, maybe we had people specializing, and then we started getting people to multitask. We ourselves started multitasking. So I think that helped us correct our system, so to speak.
And now that learning sort of continues in everything that you do
that
today.
Learning continues, and I think that has really helped our P&L also, So it was a very good learning.
And that's the other point that I wanted to touch upon, that you mentioned, from F Bar to Hard Rock to Shiro's, like fairly fine dine places, to now you exploring cloud kitchens, because you have that learning from COVID. What has that been like? What have you been looking at in that space?
So cloud kitchens, I mean, it's just very recent that I'm looking at building various brands, because we have our kitchen, we have our staffing. Building cloud kitchens with different names from the same kitchen, it just adds more revenue to us.
Got it. Oh, fantastic. Switching gears to what you would probably have a lot of stories and something very fascinating for people. How was getting each of these brands, maybe starting with speaking with Michelle Adam and getting F Bar to India? What was that like?
Getting brands into India has always been a challenge, because there's so many people that want these brands, the big giants that want it. And back then we were like nobodies, right?
And at a time when probably we weren't sure when was India ready for an F Bar.
Exactly. So was India ready? But we achieved it. We managed it. Hats off to my husband, because back then I wasn't really involved with the business, but hats off to him. So many big giants. We were newcomers in India, and I think he achieved, a huge thing by bringing these brands into India.
Do you remember the day F Bar started, and what was that like?
Yeah, so F Bar, I can't remember a number of days, but literally back then it was our first F&B venture. My husband sat there. He had a backpack. He camped at the outlet. And I think in less than 2 months, he had the outlet ready, and everybody laid bets and said, this is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Literally 2 days before our launch party, we had sent out invitations. We had Rohit Bal coming. We had a fashion show. We had a huge launch that Bangalore had never seen.
I can imagine. And this is which years, if I may?
I think it was 2002.
Yeah, okay.
2002.
Back in the day.
Back there, we had a ramp over a swimming pool with Rohit Bal. We had models flying in from all over India. I don't think Bangalore had really seen anything back then.
Yeah.
So it was a wow factor back then, and also the interiors were really, nobody had seen anything like that in India, So coming back to 2 days before the launch, our friends came in and said, are you guys crazy? You have your party in 2 days. What are you thinking? Why don't you delay this? For those 2 days, we didn't sleep. I mean, like I said, back then I wasn't really involved. I was just doing the back end stuff. Literally, I remember 2 days or the night before, we were polishing floors. Literally, we had fans drying the floors. We were lifting things ourselves. It was
a true startup journey.
True startup journey, but we managed. The opening night was a big night.
Uh-huh.
I think we had like over 400 people. And back then in 2002, like I said, Bangalore had never seen anything like that. So we were like the first ones to really do these shows. It was a huge hit, huge success. And yeah, it was an exciting journey.
No, it sounds very, very exciting. It sounds like, you finish a college project. It's just that this is a much bigger project, and that to a real life project. Then from F Bar, how did it go on to become this giant with Hard Rock and all the other brands? What was the journey of getting Hard Rock to India?
So I just going to touch upon it. So my husband and his business partner back then brought in Hard Rock, and then from there we, like I mentioned, Asilo happened, Shiro happened. These two are own homegrown brands. Again, out of being passion, the menu is all developed by my husband. Lot of thought into it. Very exciting. Did that. So yeah, this is how we kind of grew the whole company.
And then you decided that Shiro was...
2018 was when I kind of fully immersed myself into the JSM brands. Otherwise, I was kind of just overseeing things, but I think 2018 onwards, I fully immersed myself into
and just a couple of years before COVID, so there could have been no better learning.
But it's been great learning. I mean, and like I told you earlier, I just enjoy learning. Even till today, I just enjoy learning. And to be honest, that was one of the reasons I was okay to do this, because I said, maybe, hey, it's going to be good learning. I was nervous to be part of it, but I said, it's just going to be good learning.
Well, that's what we say, right? Growth mindset, and something that you always want to keep doing new things and learn, because to be honest, that's how you have learned. That's how most founders
Honestly,
learn.
That's been my learning. I haven't really had any formal learning, but day to day, talking to people, being on the ground, interacting with my team, being part of meetings that I don't even need to be, but I'm just part of it because I want to learn.
Yeah, I mean, if you have ear to the ground, that's probably the best way to learn it, much more than any business school or anything will teach you. So
Absolutely. And I truly believe that is the best part of learning.
Fantastic points made. In fact, something for everyone to pick up from if they're starting a restaurant business or just general in life.
And I'm happy to, if this is kind of like a startup platform and people are looking at a startup space, I'm happy to engage with people to see if I can be of any help to them.
That's very gracious of you. Thank you so much. We'll definitely try and see how we can get people, at least from the industry, or if they want to seek advice, how do they reach out to you. But just on Shiro's, because this is where we are right now. This is what we were discussing, how grand it looks, how was it put together. We're sitting in, what is the size of the ceiling and what's the height of the ceiling?
This is 65 feet.
So there is this where, like, just to give context to everyone, so we're sitting under a 65-foot ceiling. Usually a house ceiling would be what?
It would be about 10 to 11 feet.
Yeah, so we're sitting probably in about like a 6-story open roof restaurant. What was that vision like? This is not the vision for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
This is not the vision for someone who's looking at doing something scrappy. How did this come about?
So back then, a lot of people would say to us, what is this ceiling height? You'd rather build floors and generate revenue from various floors. But again, back then, it was Sanjay, my husband's vision of having a voluminous space, a wow factor. So today, when you walk in, you do see the wow factor. I mean, 18 years down the line, we still have people coming in and saying, wow,
Yeah. And you mentioned how they come in to click photos. In fact, this has become somewhat of a site.
Yes. So we do have people coming in just to take pictures because there is, truly till today, when I walk in, I'm like, wow.
You walk into the space and you realize,
and I see this space all the time, but I do feel there's still a wow factor.
Yeah, the natural light, the design of it, nothing blocking your view, just an amazing setting.
So we've got an openness to it, versus coming to like a cluttered space. We have, a lot of open spaces, a lot of green, a lot of, volume.
But was this scary at the start? Because this seems like a big bet to take. It's by definition a very, very big bet that you would have taken. I'm guessing around that time, probably rents or lease amounts weren't that exorbitant. But referencing it to the time that it was started, it was still quite a significant amount.
It was definitely a big risk back then. It definitely was. But then, we knew our product was fantastic. We knew our space was top notch. Our food is top notch. Service, everything put together was top notch. So, though it was a risk, we had ticked most boxes.
Understood. And is there now, say, a template that you would have when you start a new restaurant? Like, do you look at consumer research in that area? Do you look at a certain menu? Do you look at certain setting that is not available in that region? What's the process of starting?
We do analyze, we do assess, our neighborhood. We understand what the market wants. And we obviously have to be strategic in terms of where we need to be located.
Got it. So it's mostly with restaurants. You would look at, say, in UB City, you would look at what is available in and around. How can you create a unique experience?
Yeah.
Understood.
And now there's so much happening. So, so many places springing up. So one has to be a little thoughtful and mindful as to what you're doing in terms of cuisine, decor, etc.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about cloud kitchens. What else is in store, say, in the next 3 to 5 years that you're working on?
So we have a new brand which we should be launching in the next 1 month in Bangalore. It's called Yuichi by Shiro. I don't want to say too much about it, but we should be launching, again, it's Asian driven, Asian food. So we're doing that. And in terms of cloud kitchens, we are exploring a lot of cloud kitchens from our existing kitchens.
Got it. And do you see Asian cuisine picking up a lot?
Yes.
Got it.
I think other than the biryanis and the pizzas, I think Asian is also hot selling. I mean, Asian, yes, your typical Asian, yes, but I would also say now your dim sums, your sushis, people's palates have changed.
And in the cloud kitchen, I'm guessing you're looking at a completely different space, or at least a completely different cuisine.
Yes, driven by our Asian cuisine.
Got it. Fantastic. I mean, I think you've shared so much about how you started, what you are proud of. I mean, all the things that these global brands that you got here.
Yeah.
You shared what you're planning to do in the next 3 to 5 years, but just to understand, how do you keep yourself sane in this 24/7 no holiday business? What is your day-to-day like?
I think I've got a good balance. I really do believe in balance. So while I love to work, and I think I've become a workhorse, I'm constantly working. I mean, I get up in the morning, I'm constantly at it. I'm also trying to make sure that I have a good balance. Like now on Sundays, I make sure I'm not going to any of my outlets. I'm not checking emails. I think you just need that one day to kind of reset, which I consciously do nowadays. But yeah, I mean, catch up with friends and just maybe now play a lot of pickleball in my downtime, But I do believe in a good balance.
Is there any particular morning schedule or something that you do on a daily basis that sort of grounds you, or maybe at least is your time?
I mean, my time, I would say doing my yoga, going for my walks, exercising is my good downtime.
Then you're an early morning person?
I'm an early morning person. And I feel getting up in the morning, I just end up getting a lot done.
Got you. And then in terms of just life philosophy, right? Because this can be overwhelming very soon. Success or failure in this could get to you.
Yeah.
Is there something that you do as just life philosophy that sort of pulls you back together? Is it family? Is it philosophy? Is it spirituality?
Spirituality, yes, for sure. And as you get older, I think that's, you lean towards spirituality a little more. So I think that's my journey as well. But I would really say, in this space, it's just so important to remain grounded because it has its highs and lows. So it's just very important to remain grounded, humble. Yeah.
And just any last tips when you say spirituality, if you want to, or if you can share, what is it that you do, something that people should pick up on? Because again, 24/7 business, most founders actually treat their startups as 24/7, what would keep you sane on a day-to-day basis?
I think balance is key. You know, look after yourself, look after your business. It's just the right balance that is required.
Got you. And anything that you are looking forward to as time that you take off with family or just generally for yourself that you do every year as a ritual?
I do take holidays, spend time with my son. We go on trips, just the three of us. So yeah, that's something I really look forward to. But even then, we don't switch off completely because you need to be connected.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So it's not something, where you can disconnect from work completely. It's not like when you're in a corporate business, you have like 2 weeks off and you're like,
yeah, I mean, no things emails. Could be burning to the ground at that time.
Yeah, but still, it's good time out. And I think over the years, you kind of train yourself, to be part of this whole journey. Taking time out where necessary and being involved where necessary.
And I guess family or at least your son has over the years understood the life that you lead and the demands of this kind of a life.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I mean, honestly, it is not completely painful. It is a fun business. It's exciting. You're meeting new people. You're always, reinventing. Though it's full time, but it's also fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, putting all of this together, this kind of vision is fun in itself and letting it play out. Thank you so much. You did this. I know we were discussing this and it was very last minute, but thank you so much for answering all the questions.
Not at all. Thank you
candidly.
So much.
There's just so much to learn and pick up for all the startup founders, not just from this space. I think the fact that you learned as you did things and on the way is something that everyone should pick up on. And thanks for hosting us and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.